Entering the Pat Mayo experience.
Pat Mayo experience. Pat Mayo experience. Pat Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo experience. We gotta dig into Super Bowl 59, or as I like to call it, Super Bowl LIX. The props, early ones you need to hit right now before they all get bet into oblivion, and we gotta make some money. The number one thing I can tell you right now, if you want to win a wager at the Super Bowl, go to Underdog Fantasy right now, use code Mayo. Not only do you get a deposit bonus of $1,000, you will get a free pick to win on Super Bowl Sunday. Or hell, if you want to use it before Super Bowl Sunday, you go ahead. But that's code Mayo at Underdog right now. You're going to be betting at the Super Bowl anyway. You might as well get some free money and a free pick to ensure that you have yourself a very good Sunday. To break down the early prop board, got two guys from BetSperts 4for4 Football. First up, you may know him from this show and our former Prop Shop show over on the BetSperts Network. It is Connor Allen. Sir, how are you?
Great, Pat. Appreciate you having me on here. The board is full. Books did not waste any time. I mean, there was props up within minutes of the game ending last night. Excited to chop it up. You know, it's exciting times when we're getting props on guys that normally wouldn't even be lined. Props available for things that you shouldn't even be betting on, but we still will anyways. Excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I just want to win some bets here. I have my two giant futures, so I'm going to win on the Super Bowl regardless, because the only two future bets I gave out on the win total show were Eagles over Chiefs in the Super Bowl at 66-1 and Chiefs over Eagles in the Super Bowl at 55-1. So one of those is winning, although actually I want to introduce him right now. Stu from BetSperts and 4for4 Football as well. Senior analyst over there at Monotone Football on Twitter. It's one of these things where, I keep targeting these like low prop totals throughout the playoffs, and I get like 3 of 4, and it's absolutely crippling because I can't help but make same game parlays.
Yeah, and this is one of those rare games where you have an excuse to truly bet like everything on the board, right? As someone that has a bit of reputation for playing backup running backs, fifth string wide receivers, this is my time to shine. This is when people don't shun me, but they actually come to me and say, who is the best fifth string wide receiver in this game? So looking forward to building some same game parlays, giving you guys some maybe names you didn't think about beforehand.
Well, you got to tell the viewers what you told me before the show, because it made me feel very old.
Yeah, no, I started my Twitter account at Monotone Football to reply to your tweets. I've been watching your show since I was in high school. I sent even a very embarrassing video auditioning to be on the network at some point when you did some kind of, I truly would never like to see that video again. But yeah, longtime fan. Shout out to the Oscar betting show, because you doing that Oscar betting show got me a job writing about Oscars betting at Vegas Insider, which is why I have a job right now. So huge thanks to you, and yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, so I need to get some. Now I'm coming to you for some winners because I've been drying up here. What's the first thing that you looked at on the board?
I mean, for me, it's a guy that's been really generous to me so far. The first thing I looked at was Xavier Worthy. To be more specific, over 5.5 receptions, and you can even get still over 4.5 rush yards right now. It's rare that you obviously get a wide receiver that's getting consistent running back touches, but to me, Xavier Worthy has been one of the most impressive guys all year long, and because we got Malik Neighbors, we got Brian Thomas Jr., we have all these amazing rookies, nobody's giving this guy the respect he deserves. He's one of the fastest players in the league, and they are using him constantly. My favorite stat was Xavier Worthy since week 15, since everybody's healthy. The guy has 13 screen passes. He's averaging over 2 screen passes per game. This is Patrick Mahomes' #1 wide receiver in a fantastic offense that is just getting a baseline of 2 easy screen receptions a game. For me, it's going to be hard to get better than that.
Connor, I've been playing the over rush yards now for about 3 straight weeks. Actually, basically the final week 17 for the Chiefs in the first 2 playoff games. He didn't hit the rushing total a week ago, and then he crushed it immediately in the game against the Bills. But this rushing prop for Xavier Worthy has been like a printing press since they got all their guys back, and 4.5 rushing yards is still pretty low.
Yeah, because they can't really run the ball all that well traditionally. Isaiah Pacheco is basically cooked, and Kareem Hunt is been better than Isaiah Pacheco, but still not very good. He looked a little bit more spry last week, but that was against the Bills run defense that I don't think anyone thought was very good either. So it wouldn't be surprising to see 2-3 carries for Worthy in this spot. So, he only needs 1, I think, to get over 4, but having the extra comfort of having maybe 2 or 3 could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, Stu kind of mentioned it as well, that you can hit on this prop, and even in the week where he didn't hit it, I think he ended up with a -4 rushing yards. That's going to cripple you when you're playing an over on anything. But just the amount of screen passes that you're going to get, Stu, all it takes is for one to be like slightly behind the line of scrimmage, and you win this bet.
Oh yeah, as an Austin Eckler bettor, I'm very familiar with that phenomenon. The guy's had like 5 catches this year that are within a line, and every single time it goes against me. So yeah, shout out Austin Eckler. But no, you want to be live for that. You want to be live. You get the end arounds, and you got Jalen Carter up the middle. When you think about one person in the NFL you do not want to run up the middle against, it's probably Jalen Carter. So let's get outside. Let's get creative. Let's get Worthy involved. I think that's probably, and Andy Reid, he loves doing stuff like that.
Yeah, normally, we'll obviously have the full in-depth prop show next week with Feinberg, myself, and Cust, and he's going to tell you to bet tails as the best bet because he does that every year. And then Rob, Cam, and I will do the same thing, give our 3 favorite props. But I think now, Connor, is really the time to jump into this before these lines get smashed. Like, this Worthy one's going to be a popular one. It's 4.5 -110 right now. I'm guessing by the time 13 days from now, when the Super Bowl actually rolls around, it's going to be like 6.5 or 7.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I think that's how it works. It's like, I think that the saying like bet overs early and unders late on star players in the Super Bowl week actually matters a lot, because you're going to have everyone betting Travis Kelce over, Saquon Barkley over, especially guys like, Xavier Worthy, Dallas Goedert overs. And then these numbers are going to continually climb. So if you want any unders on the star players, I like to wait. But I think the overs are ripe to get in early here, like basically as soon as possible.
What do you make of the Barkley rushing total for the Super Bowl, Connor?
Yeah, we're looking anywhere from 112 to 115 rushing yards. It's so interesting because this Chiefs run defense was awesome for like the top run defense in the league for 17, 16 weeks. And then down the stretch have been pretty bad. Like they were ripped by James Cook a couple of times. They've been ripped in the playoffs. Even the Steelers had some success running against them. I still have to dive in, whether it's them playing light boxes, personnel, what it is. There has to be a reason, because I struggle to believe that they went from being like literally an elite run defense to just not very good. And that obviously matters significantly here, because the Eagles, since their week 5 bye, they have been playing from ahead basically the entire game. There's only been 2 games where they've been losing in the fourth quarter in the last 14 games. 2 games where they've even been losing, which is crazy. So when I'm interested to see what this game looks like from a perspective of if they fall behind or if they have to throw a little bit more, what does that do to Saquon? What does that mean to them? Or do they just still run the ball anyways if they're down like 10?
They might. I mean, that's probably their best method, isn't it, Stu?
I think it is. And I think live betting could be really interesting there. Let's say they fall back 7 points. You see a huge adjustment in the number. I don't think they're suddenly saying, you know what, it's the Jalen Hurts show. It's time to take care of business. No, I think they stay on the ground. I would say the same thing I said to everyone last week. If you think this guy's going to run for 120 yards, you think he's going to have this immense carry load, why not just take the longest rush? I feel like you have so many more paths to victory with the longest rush market, because if you're counting on a guy to get 130 rush yards, I'm not sure how you get there without a 25-yard run at some point. And that's where it was lined last week. Highest number we've seen all season, and he goes over it on the first play. So it's hard to go against longest rush for Saquon.
They are taking a bit of vig on both sides, more than normal, which is to be expected during Super Bowl week. That's how they get you and ensure that the sports books make their money. But the Barkley longest rush right now, Stu, 23.5.
Yeah, that's still a very reasonable number. I don't see how. I know it's crazy to say, but 25 is the peak. That was last week, and he goes over it on the first play of the game. Like, this is the best running back in football, and he's always been a boomer bust guy. He's going to have those 2 yards carries. A lot of people highlighted it last week. Oh, Washington is great at limiting Saquon's success rate. He just beats them with a couple chunk runs. That's how pretty much every running back wins in the NFL at this moment. So for me, I do think there's going to be a mistake at some point. I think Saquon's going to take advantage. I love the longest rush at 23.
So 23.5, you can go over on that, Connor. But even just like just doing the classic scrolling through his game log, it's pretty noticeable that it's about 50-50 that he goes over or under this one. Like even in the playoffs, he went Against Green Bay, 17 was his longest rush. But what is noticeable and sticks off the page is the amount of times his longest rush is like over 40 yards or something like that. Do you think that's something you just want to play the over-under on? If you start laddering it up a little bit, it's plus 140 for 30 being the longest rush. It's 3-1 for 40 to be the longest rush. 5.5 for 50. 50 is a bit long, but if you even want to do like plus 140 for 30, I think I like that more than 23.5 at minus 115.
I 100% agree. He's a home run hitter, like that's like 30 plus at plus money. I think is a great look. 40 plus even at like, plus 200, plus 300 or better. I think that's probably my favorite look among the Saquon Barkley props. To Stu's point, I wouldn't be surprised depending on where the Saquon number lands and kind of after all analyzing everything that I'm more interested in the Saquon rushing under than in the over, which sounds completely outrageous, but the number is already so high. His prop last week was 125, 126. He finished with 115 after having a 60-yard run on the first play and them winning by 30 points. There's just so much more that can go wrong, that can go right, I think. Of course, he's going to run for 200 yards now that I said that. But, we'll see what happens.
Well, Connor, let's go back to you. What was the first thing that jumped off the page to you in the prop market?
Yeah, something that I really like this week, Dallas Goedert over 46.5 receiving yards. I like it up to 50 at this point. Chiefs allowed the most yards of tight ends this season, 66 yards per game, including 10 games with tight ends to clear 46.5 yards. Since Goedert returned from his injury, 7 for 85 last week, 4 for 56, 4 for 47, all with Jalen Hurts only throwing the ball 28, 20, and 21 times. I don't know if they're ever going to go past heavy to Stu's point, like they said, but I don't know, maybe ends up in the 28 to 30 pass attempt range, and that could add extra volume for Dallas Goedert. But even without that, he has a great matchup. They can't really just say, oh, we're going to stop, a guy focus on Dallas Goedert. And if they did, they'd be leaving themselves exposed with AJ Brown or, Devonta Smith or any of their other weapons. So I think that he's in a really good spot here to have a good game, maybe 4 or 5 catches. And I think 50 yards is no problem. So I think that this is going to close in the low 50s. So I wanted to get on this one early.
Stu, are you big on the Goedert props as well?
100%. And I don't know how you walk away from last week feeling differently. They had multiple scripted short passes for him where it was almost like a wide receiver screen. Just get him the ball, let the yards after catch do the talking. And that's in a game script where they were leading. They were comfortable for a good portion of that game, thanks to Washington shooting themselves in their own foot. That's not going to be the case against the Chiefs, right? You are not going to be in that comfortable game script anymore. For me, I think something overrated in modern betting is targeting position groups. I like to target parts of the field. And when you think of what the Chiefs do well with this Spagnuolo defense, their ability to get free rushers at an insane rate, their creative blitz packages, but then also they're a very safe cover 2 heavy team. They want to eliminate the explosive plays. That's going to leave that short middle of the field so open. It naturally just has to. These blitzers have to come from somewhere when you're doing these creative safety, linebacker, corner blitzes, and you're leaving chunks of the field open. For me, I think the game plan is Jalen Hurts, be quick, be decisive, make simple decisions. Let's not, things go wrong when Jalen Hurts has to make 4 reads. Let's get the ball out quickly, and let's let that huge 6'5" tight end truck a couple people along the way.
There was even a play against Washington, Stu, where Hurts probably could have taken off and gotten more yardage than Goedert. When he just rolled out to the left, Goedert was in front of him. If he had just said block and Goedert had just laid a block down the field, Hurts could have been gone. But instead, he gave him a weird little I don't even know how to describe it. It was a little flick pass that may have been 1 yard just to get it into Goddard's hands. And that's the sort of route tree that we're seeing for him right now to add on to what you just said of what we're going to see. And I would even swing it back to the other end of the field, seeing how much that Ertz beat up on Philadelphia's defense. He found the soft spot in that part of the field. Obviously, Kelsey is going to be the popular one, but I was on Noah Gray against the Bills. I thought the Bills, after watching what happened against Baltimore, would have that part of the field open. But they made a very concerted effort to take Kelsey out of the game, and then Gray just didn't play very many snaps. I think we'll see more Gray in this game, and he can hit that soft spot of the field.
Yeah, we really see Noah Gray involved when they go heavy on the 12 personnel, right? And I think that's going to be a key component of this game because obviously when you can rush 4 and you can be so comfortable getting pressure without blitzing, that's a dangerous tool that the Eagles have. And what they sacrifice when they do that is their linebackers are playing very soft. They're allowing everything to be in front of them. And you're right, Kelsey's the obvious guy. He's always the guy people go to. Noah Gray has just been in the background cashing tickets for years, man. I love Noah Gray. He's one of my favorite players. I agree. I wanted to go to him last week, but I was just scared they weren't going to show as many 12 personnel looks because I didn't think they were going to be as keen on establishing the run in that game. I think they wanted to let Mahomes work a little bit more. I think in this game, when you look at that Philly defensive line, I think they almost force you into more 12 personnel, and Noah Gray is definitely going to be a guy that benefits.
Now, would you prefer him over 1.5 catches, over 12.5 yards? Because everything has come down. It was a lot like I had Leone on the show last week, Connor, and we talked about Amari Cooper props. It's like these are as low as you're ever going to find them. You might as well just blindly bet the over because it's only going to take one. And I think he cashed all of his overs within 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was an awesome look. It's so interesting because like the Chiefs have like 5 guys that rotate depending on what they want to do. So 2 weeks ago, we saw Marquise Brown take a massive step in snaps. DeAndre Hopkins ran like 11 routes or 13 routes, the same number as Juju Smith-Schuster. This last week against the Bills, Juju Smith-Schuster ran 23 routes, only 3 fewer than Marquise Brown. And he ran 10 more than DeAndre Hopkins. Like, I think that Juju is like, they seem to love him. I mean, people forget that he had like a legacy game midway through the season and then got injured. And so I don't know. I mean, they could go more 12 personnel and it would be Noah Gray and like basically no Juju. It could be the opposite. It could be 11 and then it's just basically Juju again, all over again. So I think that like figuring out which ancillary option you want to like target and go after could provide massive value because 1 or 2 of these guys is going to play like 60, 70% of the snaps and run a ton of routes. I just figure out which one I think is pretty important because all their props right now, Juju's at like 13 yards, Noah Gray's at 12, 13 yards. I don't think Hopkins is going to play very much. So I think his under it's 17.5 is a pretty interesting look because we have now 2 games of 13 routes and 11 routes. Seems like he's just taking a back seat.
That could be the case. Where do you how do you think that the rotation does work in this game, Stu, for the Chiefs? Like, do you think we do see the Juju? Because as Connor just mentioned, right now he is at what? 14.5 receiving yards is the total. But his longest reception is still right around 8.5. And it feels like if he gets one, he's just going to get it.
Yeah, it's really funny. Connor, I think the first thing he said in our Slack chat last night was Juju yards. And I actually said longest reception is probably how I'd go. So I'm with you there. I completely agree. It's like the usage will, I think, be average. It'll be middling. But like you said, anytime you have similar usage to DeAndre Hopkins in a playoff game and you're getting a big discount in comparison, I mean, I'm on board for that. I'm on board. I think Juju's a little bit of an under the radar guy. And like you said, I think 1 catch is really all you can ask for. For me, I think one way you can kind of attack all these guys too, if you really don't want to be rolling around in the weeds at your Super Bowl watch party, telling everyone you're betting on Noah Gray and Juju Smith-Schuster, is Patrick Mahomes completions. I mean, if all of these guys are going to eat, if we're going to have all these short yardage passes, we just saw Jaden Daniels soar over this number last week. The Eagles aren't hiding what they do under Fangio, right? They want to limit explosive plays. They want to sit back and they're going to tackle aggressively, right? And they're just going to keep everything in front of them and they just don't want to give up that 50-yard bomb. I didn't really believe in Jaden Daniels to be able to execute that kind of perfect game plan. If you can think of one quarterback that's built in a lab, I mean, Patrick Mahomes almost swept the regular season, generating explosive plays at an extremely below average chunk. Like they were with the Giants and the Panthers all year long in terms of explosive plays through the air, and they were dominating teams. So the Chiefs don't need to rely on this. Patrick Mahomes doesn't need to go 40 yards at a time. He is perfectly comfortable taking those 4-yard checkdowns to Noah Gray and Juju Smith-Schuster.
So what you're saying really is either maybe you can correlate these together, although it's probably an anti-correlation in that matter. I'll try to put together a same game parlay and see how it works. But Mahomes over completions, but lower than 35.5 longest completion.
Well, with Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, that's a risky proposition. I like where your head's at. Like, I agree with the logic, but I don't know if I'd be able to pull the trigger at the end of the day. I think if I were to go to like a reverse correlation, it'd almost have to be a specific player. Like, let's say we assume Worthy has 7-8 catches, but maybe he doesn't crack the 50-yard mark just because they're all screens. Like, going against Mahomes himself is so tough because right when you'll be feeling great about this, it'll be the fourth quarter. Justin Watson's going to catch a 42-yard pass from the grave.
Unless maybe it's just Justin Watson first touchdown, Connor. That's the move. He'll play his 2 snaps and he'll catch a touchdown.
Oh, it's so funny. Anytime I see Justin Watson now, I mean, he's like the wide receiver 6 and he's still getting, some run out there. This guy just can't go away. Like he's always out there. I don't know what his touchdown props are, but that's kind of a fun random long shot. Maybe Noah Gray touchdowns are probably a better look though. I'm sure the price is less, but
let's see.
Noah Gray touchdown is very much Super Bowl licks here.
Yeah. First, I mean, P. Ryan's another one that you'd be like, oh yeah, they're just using P. Ryan in this game because they've decided not to run at all. And they're just going to pass. So P. Ryan's on the field 50% of the time. P. Ryan's first touchdown is actually 40-1. And what else do we have here? Justin Watson is 50-1 for first touchdown. Like they're the only other, I wouldn't even say it's reasonable, but a guy who might be on the field, because I think they line him up in the backfield sometimes in jumbo packages, would be like Calcaterra 66-1.
Calcaterra 66-1. I love the Calcaterra look. Yeah, he plays like, I don't know what, 10, 15 snaps a game. He could get there. I mean, you never know. It's these fun long shots that are some of the best things to bet on.
Well, Stu, what happened to the first touchdown market? Did it become so popular? They're like, we can make these odds whatever we want and people will bet it regardless. So let's make them as bad as possible.
Yeah, that's one I've really never been able to get into. I'm much more a sucker for last touchdown. P. Ryan, a guy you just mentioned, don't like him for first touchdown. I'm in on P. Ryan last touchdown. He didn't touch the ball all playoffs, and they trusted him in the biggest moment in the last play of the game. So let's say now put Patrick Mahomes in the classic 2-minute drill trailing situation. P. Ryan is going to be that 2-minute drill back. He'll be on the field with Patrick Mahomes if there is a chance to clinch the game on a last drive. So for me, P. Ryan, I mean, the chances of him being out there first touchdown for me, very minimal. But I think last touchdown, you can draw like a pretty reasonable roadmap there, and you don't pay quite, it's still not a great price, but I think it's better than the first touchdown market because I'm with you. Those are pretty brutal right now. And if you've been betting all year long, especially on primetime, it's the most chalk guy every single week. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. I mean, knowing our luck, it's going to be Travis Kelce first touchdown.
Yeah, listen, a lot of people will be happy if it is Travis Kelce first touchdown because I'm guessing he and Barkley they'll probably even parlay together Chiefs first touchdown Kelce, and then they can parlay together Saquon Barkley first touchdown for the Eagles. The only look I would really give for first touchdown right now would actually be, where is he and what's he paying? 20-1 on Mahomes first touchdown.
Yeah, I really like that. I like a lot of Mahomes rushing. I mean, in the playoffs, this is the time where they do it. It's the Super Bowl. It's the biggest game of the year. We saw it last week. There were option plays called for Patrick Mahomes on 4th down. I don't remember ever seeing that in his career. So they're going to use him in the running game. He had a little ankle thing a couple weeks ago. That is clearly nowhere to be found. I'm with you. I think first touchdown is a good look. And I think even expanding on that, I think there's some other good rushing looks as well.
Okay, we'll get to those in a second. I just want to stick on this touchdown market. Connor, I gave out on the show last week, like, hey, what's something we can boost up for like a super long shot lotto ticket? And I was like, oh, well, if this just hit against Detroit, maybe it could hit against Philly. And I got it wrong because I didn't do it the other way. But I had Washington money line with Jeremy McNichols game's last touchdown, when in reality it should have been Eagles money line Shipley last touchdown. I think that would have paid with 200-1 or something. That if you're going to do P. Ryan for last touchdown, it's like Chiefs money line, P. Ryan last touchdown. That logically, as Stu pointed out, is the script that you'd want to go to.
Yeah, no, I like that. And then I think if you want to go on the Eagles side, I mean, if you think that, the Eagles blow out the Chiefs or something, I mean, or a Kenny G last touchdown Eagles money line, something like that. I know he got injured. I would assume he'll be fine for this week or for the Super Bowl. But I mean, I think that, Gainwell, it would have been Gainwell in the game. I mean, honestly, instead of Shipley. So I don't know. I think Gainwell props, which he doesn't see a ton of usage during the middle of the game, but I think he can get there at the end. So that kind of correlation play could be pretty fun.
The P. Ryan Chiefs money line pays 60-1 if that's a market that you're somewhat interested in. You probably don't need to throw on the Chiefs money line into it, but if they're going to be passing to P. Ryan, it would almost make sense that, as Stu pointed out, they would have to come back in that situation. That's why he would be on the field, thus scoring a touchdown. Almost like the James White game against Atlanta when the Patriots got down by a ton and then it was all James White all the time. Welcome to the TGL presented by SoFi, golf's newest league. It's sharp and it's electric. How is it sharp? How is it electric? Good questions. Try this on for size. 2 hours of hammer dropping, overtime forcing, playoffs on the line golf with 24 of the best players from the PGA Tour. Tuesday, February 4th, we got the Boston Common versus Los Angeles Golf Club. Rory McIlroy, Keegan Bradley, Adam Scott, and Hideki Matsuyama taking on Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, and Sahith Theegala. This isn't your average Sunday pickup game. Tune in each week for TGL only on ESPN. Keep up. It's golf. You guys want to talk MVP? Like, I don't really have a lot of takes on MVP. Like, it feels like it's going to be Mahomes, Hurts, or Barkley. Like, one of those three.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I was looking at this last night. I was like, Mahomes plus 110 just feels like a Chiefs money line discount. I don't know. Like, there have been multiple other games where I'm like, well, maybe he doesn't win this time. He hasn't even played that well in some of the Super Bowl wins, and he still wins MVP. So I don't know. It's plus 110 seems pretty interesting to me. And then Eagles. I don't know. I have a tough time seeing Jalen Hurts like really carry this team to like a plus 300 at plus 300 to winning. But yeah, I mean, it would just take them coming back or like, probably 250 and multiple touchdowns from Hurts, which I guess is possible, but not something I'm super interested in betting on. So yeah, it's probably just Mahomes or Barkley for me.
Anything for you, Stu?
I hate to be boring as well, but I get about 100 people that message me every year that Aaron Donald's going to win it this year. No, get your DeMar Hamlin bets in early. This is his year. Like, it's every single time it's the quarterback, man. Why do we put ourselves through this? I don't know. I could see it being Barkley if the Eagles win. I do not think the Eagles will win, so I will not be betting Saquon Barkley. For me, it's Patrick Mahomes or bust, but I really don't see too much of a need to get invested in this market when like the money line price is as reasonable as it is.
Well, should we talk? I mean, we've been talking about props this entire time. Is the bet of the year just Chiefs money line?
Man, I feel like I woke up like every other or like before I went to bed last night. I feel like half of the country opened up their sportsbook app, went Chiefs minus 125. Okay. I mean, I think in most of our eyes, I think they just beat their biggest competition last night. You know what I mean? The Eagles are a fantastic team, but if I can get Patrick Mahomes at a playable money line price in the Super Bowl, I'm going to take that bet 10 out of 10 times. And I know for every time you say that, there's going to be people at home saying this is the squarest thing in the world. And they've said that every other time as well. And they've lost every other time. So I want to be on the winning side. I want to be on Team Patrick Mahomes.
I'm still trying to parlay this together. They're not offering me longest completion over-unders as a part of the same game parlay that I'm looking at, so I can't go pass completions over and then the under on the longest one. Maybe that's going to save me a bunch of money. Who knows? That sounds like something I would lose money on by getting one half of it correct.
Yeah, half the negatively correlated plays. I think there could be some, I don't know, the negatively correlated plays are probably ripe for this game, though, especially with all the random pass catchers that there are available. Like, all these guys are just going to like rotate snaps. So you can do under receptions, over yards, and you just need like one big play. Like, I mean, Juju only had like 2 catches last week, but both of them went for like 30 yards. I mean, he could very easily only have one, this week, and probably just picking one of those like Juju, Noah Gray kind of random guys and just maybe playing negatively correlated for all of them because one or two of them is probably not going to play, but they could hit a big one. So could be some fun prices there.
Yeah, so you're saying like lower, like under receptions, higher yardage.
Yep.
Just like look under 1.5 catches and then ladder them up to 25 yards or more. And then all of a sudden you'll start getting 9-1 on your money. Pizzola gave me this one last week. It was the Zach Bond tackles and assists over 9.5, which he stormed by like halfway through the first quarter or the second quarter, sorry. But now everyone's going to be on that after it was, quote, free money last week. And I could see a scenario here where even Stu, you pointed out that maybe the Chiefs just don't run the ball as much and therefore he's not making tackles.
Yeah, the negative, though, is when they're not going to be running the ball, it's still going to be supplemented by like a ton of short passing, a ton of easy completions over the middle. And Bond has been an absolute beast in that exact kind of area, right? He's kind of been a one-man wrecking crew over the middle of the field. So I think it depends on the number. I'm not sure what it opened at. It was 9.5 last week. If it gets over that 10.5 number, that's when you're starting to ask for pretty elite production. I would think of that just as you'd think of like 100 rushing yards number for a running back, right? That's a very hard bar to cross. But with all that short passing, and if we do expect Mahomes to have a lot of these easy kind of over the middle completions, then even though he's going to lose something in the rushing game, I still do think he's going to have a very impactful game over the middle.
Connor, you and Noonan are the two guys that I go to the most for these like tackle props. Was there anything that stuck out to you there? Because that one just seemed high, especially coming off a week where people literally called it free money after it hit. Not too many people were actually on the bet, but once they heard about it and then saw what happened, it feels like that's, if anyone's going to play a defensive, probably like Jalen Carter sack in the game, maybe Chris Jones sack in the game, and then this.
Yeah, I mean Noonan's the true tackle king here, but Zach Bond right now over 9.5 is -134. So it seems like the crew that was calling it free money came back and doubled down. Trying to just keep beating that drum there for Bond. I don't know, maybe some like Kansas City linebackers against this Eagles team, like some overs there could be pretty interesting. Like we've talked about, I think the Eagles are going to try and run as much as possible. Which should be able to get them over. Some pretty reasonable numbers. Bolden and Tranquil both at 8.5. I don't know. I think that may be where I go. There's like way more Chiefs posted right now or way more Eagles posted than Chiefs. Right now we only have 4 Chiefs posted I'm seeing and like 10 Eagles posted. So I don't know. Maybe just a little bit more uncertainty on the Chiefs side.
Stu, you said you want to talk about some rushing props. What were they?
Yeah, for me, I've appealed to this market before. We're going back to longest rush. I love Patrick Mahomes over 11.5 longest rush. And obviously, we can go over the fact he's over in both playoff games. He just skirted over with 12 last game. Last year, he was over in 4 or 5 playoff games. When he played the Eagles last in the Super Bowl, he went over this number. But I mean, even beyond any data, any numbers, am I not the only person that can so easily just imagine how Mahomes get this 12-yard run? Like, this guy is the king of, in the biggest moments possible, the pocket breaks down, he escapes. Oh, it just looks like it's going to be a 9-yard run. He needs 10. And he somehow tiptoes along the sidelines and gets himself an extra 4 or 5 yards, maybe gets an extra 15-yard penalty at the end. Like, this guy, his sack avoidance, his scrambling is so good. It's so high level. And I just have so much trust that when he is forced out of the pocket, when the lights are the brightest, he's going to find his way to a first down. And I think a 12-yard rush is a very, very good number. That should be a lot more popular, especially considering his yards were about 23, 24 last week. I'm seeing it's already at 30. So they've already made an adjustment that we expect a lot of Patrick Mahomes rushing. I'm just thinking we get a chunk play along the way.
Connor, this is always a good spot to shop around for your numbers because I'm seeing 5.5 right now for rushing attempts for Mahomes, but at other places it's 6.5, but it's plus 110 in that circumstance. Stu just pointed out, 30.5 rushing yards. It's still 28.5 at some spots, but the longest rush at 11.5 does seem to be pretty uniform across wherever you look. I'm looking at Underdog right now. Code Mayo, get yourself a Mahomes free pick, and that way you don't even have to sweat anything Patrick Mahomes. You just win with Patrick Mahomes. But I think of all the ones they're offering, it probably is the 11.5 I like the best.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see him getting 30 plus rushing yards without like a 12-yard run. I don't know if that sounds that ridiculous, but like they don't really design a ton of runs for him. I know they had like 1 or 2 last week, but it's all just scrambles, So I don't know. I think that 11-yard longest rush there is pretty nice. Stu's been the longest king this year, so I definitely trust him on that one. But this Chiefs backfield I think is super interesting too. Like Pacheco has basically been completely, weaned out here. We're looking at 22.5 rushing yards, 6.5 carries versus Kareem Hunt, 46.5 rushing yards. What I thought was interesting is that Kareem Hunt ran like 20 routes last week, but his receiving prop is only like 5.5, whereas Pacheco is like 6.5, 7.5 because he caught 2 balls on his like 10 routes that he ran. So I don't know. I think there could be a little bit of discrepancy there based on just like usage because it's going to be mostly Kareem Hunt, it seems like, in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you know what one I was actually looking at, and this has the ability to be like, oh, first play of the game I've lost was Jahan Dotson under 1.5 yards.
I love it. This guy is out there all the time. He's the cardio king, just getting cardio out there, never gets the ball, doesn't touch it. They have no plays designed for him. He's basically just like useless space. Like he's just like running clear outs. Doesn't matter. When was the last time he had a catch? Like 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago?
He caught the first touchdown in the opening week against the Packers. I think that was like one of his 8 catches this year.
Yeah. I mean, Stu, is he your boy from Washington, right? He's
Well, Well, this is the guy that every Eagles fan in the world like masqueraded that their master GM pulled another fast one on us by getting this former first round pick for almost for free. Well, hey, guess what? There's a reason why he's almost free because when AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are out the game, the guy's lined at 25 and a half receiving yards as the wide receiver one. I can't even bet unders on him. He's so bad. So yeah, I would have nothing positive to say about Jahan Dotson.
So there we go. Let's just go under 1.5 receiving yards. Could we make that the official early play of the Pat Mayo experience?
Yes.
I'm in. That's perfect.
All right.
100%.
I love this. Is there any final ones that you guys saw that leapt off the screen right away that maybe we should be getting in on now before we try to cobble together some sort of same game parlay and underdog ticket here?
I think the only other one that stood out to me was Jalen Hurts pass attempts was at like 26.5, which, again, I don't think they're going to throw a ton, but 26.5 is just such a low bar. He had 28 against Washington last week. Like, again, they just have not even been pushed in a game in, I don't even know, 3 months. So like, I don't know, again, 27, 28 pass attempts is a pretty low bar to ask for, even if they're not necessarily pass heavy. So I thought that one was interesting. Not something I've played a ton yet, but I'm considering.
Yeah, on underdog right now, Stu, it's 26.5, although it is juiced to if you play the higher, it is 0.9, so it's like minus 120.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that at all. And I will say for one more that I was looking at that didn't get to talk about that's on the same guy, I think longest completion for Jalen Hurts could be a solid look. And I got too scared. I didn't pull the trigger last week. I regret it. But you can't defend this team without giving one-on-one situations on the outside. Like to stop Saquon Barkley, you can't do that. There's going to be A.J. Brown one-on-one. And A.J. Brown, no matter what advanced stat you look at, yards per route run, target rate, he is the best wide receiver in football in those situations. And Jalen Hurts hit him with a couple dimes against Washington. It hurts my heart to admit, but he got the job done. So for me, it would have to be like just depending on him to get one of those 40-yard passes on like a longest completion kind of play.
Yeah, and well, longest reception for A.J. Brown is 25.5. Longest completion for Jalen Hurts is 35.5. If it's not A.J. Brown who has the longest of the Hurts completions, like, Connor, what are we thinking? Like, someone just doesn't cover Devonta Smith and he runs down the field?
Yeah, basically. That or, yeah, I mean, like it would take a lot for Dallas Goedert to get somehow 40 yards downfield, 35 yards up. It happens, but it's like kind of looks more like Kittle of like, stiff arming 3 guys and, just being like a bowling ball, getting there usually. But yeah, I think it's basically probably going to be AJ Brown. Like Stu said, I'm envisioning the same. I would imagine the Chiefs are basically going to sell out to stop the run. And that's going to cause some one-on-ones with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, which we know is, AJ Brown will be the guy there on those deep one-on-ones.
All right. So I don't know what I want to do with that. I'm kind of on the same wavelength. Was there any unders that people like besides Jahan Dotson?
I like Hopkins under.
Hopkins.
Yeah, and I don't want to jump the gun. I don't want to steal Connor's thunder here, but I like Pacheco under again as well. He was on it last week. I was too scared. The guy hasn't done anything. It's the Kareem Hunt show. As crazy it is, I actually couldn't believe it, but it's the Kareem Hunt show. So I think at a certain point, you do have to buy that under on Isaiah Pacheco.
So, right. Okay, so the Pacheco rushing attempts is set at 6.5 at the open. The rushing yards is 22.5. Longest rush, 8.5. Receiving yards, 3.5. Yet receptions is 1.5, which is really mind-boggling. So it's 1.5 receptions or 3.5 receiving yards. That doesn't make any sense to me.
That makes no sense. I think rushing and receiving at 31.5 on the under could be interesting too, because again, I just think last week was kind of a fluke with like his receiving usage. He caught like 2 balls on 10 routes. So, again, I was just guessing that won't happen again. So 31.5 yards total for this guy right now seems like an insurmountable, total, because he only going to touch the ball like 5-6 times basically over the course of the entire game.
Yeah, that's a tough scene. Also, his longest reception prop is 3.5, the same as his receiving yards.
The math is not math, and Pat, I don't know if how that makes sense.
Well, Stu, is this a good time? Like I said, this is why I wanted to do this show so we could get in early, because I feel like the books haven't had enough bet into them yet to know where their soft spots are, that you're going to find these outlier props are like, what's going on with these? They don't make any sense in connection with the rest of the props available for one player.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I do want to echo though what Connor said earlier. Like I like the little Pacheco find, but a vast majority of the time, I think unders are going to be a lot better later in the week. Like I would really be trying to think. Normally you're trying to get in the mind of a sharp sports bettor with Super Bowl betting, especially the liquidity on props. I'm trying to get in the mind of like your buddy in the group chat that sends the worst bet every week because I'm thinking he's going to look at this and go, Isaiah Pacheco, 22 yards. I mean, this guy averages 70 yards per game in the playoffs. I mean, this is, they've seen all the highlights. Like, I don't see how, my buddy in the group chat doesn't love Isaiah Pacheco as a bounce back that nobody's going to be talking about this week. So if I am betting unders this week, I am going to be waiting later in the week most of the time.
So so I'm looking on Underdog right now. I want to fill out an Underdog play before we get out of here. And the rushing yards for Worthy on Underdog, Connor, are 6.5, not 4.5. They're already hip to it.
It's tough. It doesn't seem like that big of a difference, but it really is. Like, because you're talking about really, really thin margins here on some of these guys. And I feel very good that Worthy's going to get 1 carry. Does he get 2? Does he get 3? I lean towards yes. So maybe there's a little bit of value, but the difference between 4.5 and 6.5 is I mean, a lot in my opinion.
So the last 4 games that he's played in full stew, 6 catches, 5, 8, and 7 for him. The 5.5 is the number, and it is juiced up. So you get some plus money on the over if you want to take that at 5.5.
Yep. I'm a big fan of that. And I do see on Underdog right in front of me, they have 8.5 first quarter as well. I think that's an interesting way.
I was just looking at that. I was like, that's a pretty, they love to come out and just pepper him with these passes.
Yep.
It's happened. I've been betting him first drive catch a lot of these games, but you get a lot less leeway with that. On Underdog, obviously, you have the whole first quarter to kind of bail you out. You could get multiple drives here. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I think they come out with a lot of short, quick passes. Just look at Washington last week. The Eagles sat back and begged you to beat them underneath. The first thing that comes to your head when you think about the Chiefs and how they can attack that is going to be Xavier Worthy. So yeah, I think 8.5 first quarter is a very good look.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Underdog right now, and we're going to use code Mayo. If you're new to Underdog, you use your code Mayo, you get up to $1,000 of bonus money to spend all your bonus money on these entries, and then you get a free pick for the Super Bowl, or any day that you want, really. If you want to play an NBA beforehand, you can do that and use your free pick there. But what you can do for the Super Bowl is do this. Dallas Goedert, higher, 48.5 receiving yards. Patrick Mahomes, longest rush, higher than 11.5. Jahan Dotson, lower, 1.5 receiving yards. Xavier Worthy, higher, 8.5 first quarter receiving yards. And then you can check on that Saquon Barkley. Where did it go? Longest rush. There it is. So longest rush, 23.5 higher, and you will win 20 times your money. How do you feel about that, Stu?
Sounds pretty great to me. I mean, hey, that's a good little combo right there. You got my Commander's hatred to Jahan Dotson out of the way. I think we're all coming together here.
Yeah, I like it. And you can even take Barkley off that one, make it 10-1, Connor, use the free pick and boost it up to 20-1. So we can go, hell, $200 pays what, 2,000? Let's go. Let's roll. Let's win some cash.
Oh yeah. And you're going to feel so good when all these numbers are way different by the end of the week. You can show all your friends, be like, look at this at CLV. It doesn't even need to hit, but you can feel good about it on the way there.
Any love for Barkley receiving totals? Because I get suckered into these all the time and they never hit.
So low. They just don't pass. Jalen Hurts just doesn't pass the ball to running back so much. He just scrambles, but he won't. I mean, he's got that kind of knee thing. Maybe he throws the ball underneath a little bit more. I think this game in the handicap should just totally depend on how much you think the Eagles are going to throw the ball, because these Eagles numbers are way off if they throw the ball at all. Like all of them are like way too low, but if they're not, then they're just right. So I think it comes down to that, in my opinion.
I think they don't have the market set for it yet, Stu, but Jalen Hurts over sacks taken, I think will be a good look.
I like that. When we were talking defense earlier, I would name I wanted to throw out there Charles Omenihu, a guy that had some stuff off the field, kept him off a little bit. He's a great pass rusher. They utilize so many different guys. Getting him at over plus 200 for half a sack in this game is definitely interesting. When Hurts had to hold on to the ball, he gets in trouble sometimes. And we know Steve Spagnuolo is going to send some really fun blitzes. So I'm agreeing. I'm fully with you. Over sacks. They're going to have to get to him if they want to win this game.
Of course. And like, just because like even we see it with Daniels and we see it with any quarterback that tries to buy the extra time. Weirdly, it's basically Mahomes and Allen who don't take a ton of sacks, but it's probably because they're just bigger dudes and they can see over everyone, just get rid of the ball with their gigantic arms. Hurts gets caught in the pocket sometimes, tries running around and he just can't get out of it and goes down. Like if it's 2.5, I would love the over, but I don't see the total on it right now, so I have no idea.
Yeah, and I would like to circle back real quick to Saquon receiving. Instead of just going 13, for me, I would much rather go 25 or even to take it a step further and go like crazy and go for 40. Because when you do look at his game logs, you pointed this out earlier, it's boom or bust. He's either going under or he's going way over. And if you look a little bit closer, this game scripts where he's going way over is when they're losing. They just never lose. They destroy teams. They dominate time of possession, and he runs the ball. If you don't think that's going to happen against the Chiefs, then there's probably a pretty good chance he's going to be involved in the screen game. We're going to get a couple design catches. So for me, rather than going 13.5, I'd rather try to get a little bit risky, go for the long shot, and shoot for 25 plus.
I like this a lot. So again, code Mayo at Underdog gets you that free pick, so you can remove Mahomes from this 5-legger, which I just put together now. It's the same ones as before. Goedert higher receiving, Patrick Mahomes higher longest rush, Dotson lower receiving yards, Worthy higher than 8.5 first quarter receiving yards, and then I just did the boost up of Barkley higher 29.5 longest rush, and now Connor it pays 28 to 1.
I mean, just take it to the bank. Let's get rich.
How do we lose?
Next February 9th,
Yeah. How do we lose on this, Stu? I don't get it.
I don't know. I mean, hopefully we don't, right? Hopefully we're all just celebrating in the end. I mean, it's the Super Bowl. This is the time of year to bang the big parlay. If you got a couple extra bucks, save on coffee this week. Don't go to Starbucks. We got a couple episodes left. You got Cam coming on here. You got Tim. I want to tell these guys crazy bets too. So let's take a break from the McDonald's, take a break from the Starbucks, and put that pizza money on the parlays this week.
I absolutely love it. Stu, tell everyone where they can find you, your work, and what you're doing this week for the next 2 weeks, really.
Yep, I'm over on Twitter at Monotone Football. You can also find my bets up on the 4for4 site as well. And you can find me 3 times a week live on YouTube at Pass the Prop. We're just trying to break down games, give some good data, give some good analysis, and help you guys win bets. No crazy operation or anything like that, but had a great time here. I think we got some winners, and it's been a great season working with guys like Connor as well. So hopefully we can end the season with a couple more winners.
Connor, you're going to have to ping me as soon as Noonan releases his tackle props.
Yeah, those are just awesome, especially with the Super Bowl when you're trying to bet as much as possible. But yeah, so we'll have Noonan's tackle props. I usually release some special teams props. I'll have some offensive props. We already, popped out Goedert, got a couple more in the chamber here. But yeah, you can find all of our work at 44.com, betting sub there. And let's get rich.
All right, let's go. Super Bowl LIX is what we're talking about for the next 2 weeks. We also have golf in between. If you want to get stuff sent directly to you so you don't have to scroll through an entire show, the newsletter link is free. I'm going to be doing a live show in June in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, if you didn't realize that was where Toronto is. That's always how Americans say it, Connor. They have to add Canada like you're talking about, I don't know, Toronto, Arkansas or something.
There's some random cities in like rural places of the United States that are named after countries like Jordan, Illinois, and like all these just like random like places that are that. So that's why Americans are just dumb. I don't know. We'll figure out eventually, Pat. Well, probably won't, but maybe.
You are within driving distance. You go from Chicago up to Toronto, you will be fine, or take the 1-hour flight, whatever it is. You come to Toronto for the weekend in the summer. It'll be beautiful. But the first week of June is when we're targeting that. So please let me know if you plan on coming so I can book the proper size venue. Right now, we have like 200 people committed to it. If we have to go bigger than that, I'll get a bigger place. It'll be an awesome live show and a great way to meet everyone who's watched this show for years. It's the first and probably only live show we're ever doing. So you get it on that. Sub to the channel, smash like, and rate and review the audio podcast at The Pat Mayo Experience, which would really help us go a long way into becoming discoverable to new and more people, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!